Yo, what is going on, guys? It's another coaster countdown here by Coasters at yours truly. And this time I'm going to be ranking the top 13 coasters at Six Flags Great Adventure. I had a chance to visit this park in late August, and it was definitely a good park. Lots of good, strong roller coasters here that I felt like had a pretty good mix. There were a couple coasters that really seemed to be missing in their lineup, but once Jersey Devil gets added, that'll help, and maybe some kind of like family wooden coaster or something. But overall, it's a pretty good park with a very strong collection of thrill roller coasters and some decent family coasters. So let's get started with this countdown. At number 13, we have the kiddie coaster Roadrunner Railway. This is a Zamperla gravity kiddie coaster, and there's really nothing special about it. It's just like all the other ones, like Coco Cruiser, Great Chase, all those kind of things. There's nothing really special. I just found this one to be especially painful for some reason, but nothing really to say about it. It's just a kiddie coaster. Here's a controversial opinion. It's the Joker at number 12, the SNS 4D Free Spin. And yeah, I was not a big fan of this ride. I found it to be uncomfortable, rough. I bashed my head really hard, and more disorienting than fun. It just like seemed a little bit over the top. I felt like you should be able to kind of see what was going on or some kind of thing like that, which is sort of the fun part of roller coasters, is just to be able to look and see where you are. And you didn't really get a chance to do that because you're too busy going flying and flipping and twisting and bashing your head around. So yeah, not a very good ride at all. Number 11 is Harley Quinn Crazy Train, the Zero to Voli coaster. And I actually sort of like this coaster. It's nothing really special. There's nothing really in the way of forces or anything. Like, it's there, and it's not bad, it's not good, it's just there. So at least it's not rough, which is a good start. This is definitely a coaster that I would advise one of my friends who doesn't really ride many roller coasters. This would be a good first roller coaster for him to ride. It's pretty low-key and nothing too exciting, but it's also not rough enough to turn people away from it. So it's a fun little ride, though. And number 10 is Runaway Mine Train. This is kind of a fun ride, but there's also some very big drawbacks to it. So after you crest the hill, you go over this really cool helix element, which gives you a really nice view, kind of the surrounding area. That was just a cool feeling. But the rest of the ride isn't very good. There's not really a lot of redeeming factors other than that. There's one crazy pop of airtime where you just go sailing, but there's also one really, really rough section that just bashes you around and makes it hard. So yeah, this has some really high ups to it and really low downs to it. So that's why it's coming in at number 10. It's not a terrible ride, but it's not that great. Alright, at number 9 we have Dark Knight. This is a wild mouse basically in a box. It just has some theming to it, themed to the Dark Knight movie. It's a decent little ride. It's a nice little wild mouse, and some of the theme is kind of cool. It has a pre-show in it where the Joker kind of takes over, which it's kind of a nice effect, but it's really sort of an unnecessary ride, as the park has another superior indoor coaster, and even though it's fun, it's not that great of a ride because it's a wild mouse, but it's still decent and worth riding. At number 8 is Green Lantern, the B&M stand-up coaster. This is an okay ride, but I didn't find it to be very comfortable at all. And that's the problem with stand-up coasters, is you want a ride that's going to be comfortable, that you're going to enjoy. And it's hard to enjoy a stand-up coaster when you have to stand up. It really can hurt your legs and feet, especially when you've been walking around the park all day, especially a park as big as Great Adventure. But as for the ride itself, it's not a terrible stand-up coaster. The drop's pretty fun. It has some good inversions and a decent layout. It's just not the most comfortable. There is a little bit of headbanging. It's not terrible, but it's definitely one of the better stand-up coasters, but that still doesn't mean that it's a comfortable ride. At number 7 is Skull Mountain. This is a super fun indoor coaster that I really liked. Even though the layout's nothing really special and it's kind of tame and meanders around, it's still a super fun ride. It's got some cool theming. I like the concept. The mountain's pretty cool. And just the overall ride is really fun. I really enjoyed it, even though the lap bar was pushed down way too low. But there's always one coaster that I really, really like for some reason. Like, it's just like Dragonfire at Canada's Wonderland, or some of these other ones that people don't talk about as much as I think they should. And I just really like it for some weird reason. Warning though, this does get long lines. I was there on a day when not everything had very long lines, but this definitely had a long line. I waited a while for it, and it stayed about at the same the 2 times during the day. So I was only able to ride it once, sadly, just because of how long that line was. So just, I would say, if you're going to this side of the park first, definitely try and hit this up quickly. Number 6 is Batman the Ride, the inverted clone. Now this is a fun ride. This is my first ever time on a Batman clone, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. Even though I only got to ride it once, it was still a fun ride. It had some good intensity to it. It was a fun drop, fun 0G roll. There wasn't any headbanging or anything. There was nothing, just nothing wrong with this ride. The only thing that I didn't like about it was that it felt like it was too short. It was kind of a little too compact for me. I like my inverts spread out, like Great Bear or even Montu at Busch Gardens Tampa. And it's a clone, but it was still an amazing, fun ride. Nothing really special, but still, it was smooth and enjoyable. At number 5 is Bizarro, the B&M floorless. This is a cool floorless that's done pretty well. It's not my favorite floorless. That belongs to Hydra at Dorney Park. But it's still a good ride, got lots of good G-force to it, and it's got some cool theming to it as well. I mean, it's not amazing or anything, but it has some misty, kind of tunnel-y things. They're not really tunnels, but you know what I mean. And it's got some fire effects, which looks really cool when you're on the ride. It's got a couple like cutout building kind of things that you go through, which is nice that it's something beyond just your typical floorless coaster. You actually do a little bit of theming kind of thing. It's a fun ride. The inversions are well done, they're powerful, and it's only minorly headbanging. It's not really bad at all, but it's a solid ride. Definitely hit it up if you're going to Great Adventure. This is another one of those coasters that tells everyone that B&M can do forcible. Number 4 is a super fun flying coaster. This is Superman Ultimate Flight. Even though it's a clone, it's a good clone. It's probably one of the best clone coasters out there. I prefer the Superman models to the Batman models just because I love flying coasters. Flying coasters are so much fun. And even though it was nothing near as good as Manta, it was still a super great ride. The pretzel loop was insane. It was really smooth. It had some cool flying moments that you really did feel like you were flying. That inline twist going into the brake run is cool too. There's something a little bit missing maybe. I feel like it could have done better with a couple more inversions. But still, for what it is, it's a very good coaster, very smooth, and it's a very enjoyable ride. Now we come to the top 3. I think everybody can admit, at least most people can admit, that this is clearly the top 3 of this park. But everybody will have a different top 3 in mind. I know mine is a little different than some other people's, but my number 3 is King Dakar, the tallest coaster in the world. And to be honest, it doesn't really feel like it's that tall. I mean, yeah, it towers above the rest of the park, but it just didn't feel that tall. But it was still a great ride. The launch was very fast and intense. It was a little bumpy, but that's easy to look past when you know how great the ride is. The ascent and descent were really cool. That moment when you're on the top of the top hat and just looking down as you're about to spiral down the tallest roller coaster drop ever, it's insane. And even that airtime hill at the end, that even gives a little bit of airtime. It's not great because of the restraints, but it's still fun. But my one complaint is, of course, that it's too short. But I mean, this ride is just so insane that you probably couldn't handle too much of it just because of how fast it is. But it's a good ride, very solid launch coaster, and I mean, it's the tallest coaster, so that's another reason to ride this. Alright, at number 2, here's a controversial opinion. This is El Toro, and before you El Toro fanboys all get mad, I have to say that I love this coaster. It is in my top 5. It is the best wooden coaster I've ever ridden, and it's an amazing ride. So before everybody says that I don't like this ride, I do. It's amazing. But I did have a couple complaints about it, but they were very minor things. It's just I felt like it was a little too rough in a couple sections, but that's to be expected to some extent with a wooden coaster. I wasn't expecting it to be as rough as it actually was, but you know what made up for it is that crazy airtime, especially on those first 2 hills after the drop. The drop is amazing, one of the best drops just ever that I've ridden. Those 2 airtime hills after it are crazy. You could go flying. So insane. The turnaround after that's kind of it's kind of rough, but then you go back into a couple nice floater moments, and then one of the best parts of the ride is that rolling thunder hill where you just go sailing in that airtime hill. It's an amazing moment, and this is overall a great ride. Even though it's not my favorite coaster in the park, it is still the best wooden coaster I've ridden by far, and just an amazing roller coaster. And a night ride on this is just insane. It's amazing. And at number 1 is Nitro, the B&M Hyper Coaster. This is one amazing ride. But before everybody gets mad and says that, oh, El Toro is the best coaster in the park, it's better than Nitro, this is my opinion, and I love these airtime-rich, smooth, graceful rides, just like every other B&M Hyper Coaster, and it's got the clamshells, which are amazing. So that's just why it's my number 1, is because these types of coasters are my favorite. I still love El Toro. It is amazing, as I mentioned in the previous slide. But anyway, on to Nitro. This has everything you could look for in a good B&M Hyper Coaster. It's pretty smooth, has an amazing drop, is laden with airtime. There's some great hills on there that send you just flying. Every airtime moment is very strong with good floater airtime. And there's this one element, which is the first hill you pop into after the drop, that is really cool. It's sort of like a half turn, half airtime hill where you get some great airtime, especially if you're on the right side of the train. That's a super cool element. That's probably one of my favorite elements on the ride, is just how much airtime you get in that spot. There's another mini one of those too right before the helix, so that's cool. The helix is very intense. I grayed out one of the times I rode this, and all the other times I got very close to graying out. So that shows you how even a ride that is designed for speed, airtime, and grace can still pack a punch with its intensity. And this also gives an amazing night ride because it's kind of secluded out in the woods and there's nothing really around it. It's like almost totally dark. This was the last ride of the night for me. I rode this in El Toro at night, and that was just amazing. That was the best ride I had all day. Was the last ride on this coaster. You couldn't see like almost anything. So yeah, Nitro is one fantastic B&M Hyper Coaster, and it is in my top 5 coasters overall. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the ranking, even though some of my opinions are somewhat controversial. This is just my opinion, so even if your favorite coaster didn't make it as high as you want, this is just my opinion, and feel free to comment below what you thought of the video and what your ranking would be. I'd love to hear it. This is a very good park for roller coasters and for debating where some of these coasters would be ranked. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to comment and like, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.